Hi, it's a beautiful day in South Carolina. Saturday. Wow, it's just gorgeous. It's not too hot, but the sun's starting to come out and really warm things up. Things are starting to really grow, and I'm looking for good news. I try to be a positive person, and things have just kind of worn me down. Things happen like that. And I wanted to share the things I did right, and that may be beneficial to you to learn and try for yourself and see how it works for you. And if you have some good news or something good that you want to share, please put a link, let me know, or how to, go searching for it. Because I need positive things. I don't watch the news. I have been boycotting the news for 9 years now, all the big networks, including Fox. I don't want to get in debate about it. Most of the news you see has no real impact on your life except maybe gas prices going up or a shortage in something, but everything else is so out of our control. We vote for our elected officials, and then it's in their hands to do what's right, and usually they don't get it right. Some of them may try. I don't think most of them do, but that's another topic. Here's the things I've done right, and I want to share that because a lot of times I notice all the things I do wrong. I'm not doing things as timely, even factoring in that it's going to take me 3 times longer than I think it should. It's still taking me longer than that. It's just, I do what I can. And I need to pat myself on the back for those little moments. I know that's pathetic to some people. I have moments where I'm just like doing so much and overachieve. And then I have moments where it's taking me weeks to fill in a trench, my little garden here. And it's getting past time for me to sow some seeds, and it's just going to happen when it happens, and I got to let it go. But so here I'm going to point out some things I did right, all past stuff, and maybe it'll help you. One of the best things I ever did with my kids is instill a one night that each child had to cook a full meal. It's dinner time, supper time, sitting around the table. Everybody knows, but it doesn't happen with, one kid playing soccer, another kid playing whatever, and whatever lessons, and all the stuff that's going on, and different ballparks, and it just gets crazy, and it's hard to sit down for dinner. But what I did was one night, each child, and there's an 8-year gap between my 2 kids. So that just gave me 2 nights off, and they got to pick, and then I got to, they had to do this ahead of time, so I got to shop. And at first when we started doing it, my son wanted to make fried rice. Now there is an almost infinite, if not is an infinite, combination of things you can do with fried rice. Vegetarian, pork, shrimp, different veggies you put into it, leftovers, kimchi, make it almost like a bibimbap. But when he did that for about 3 or 4 weeks in a row, and he varied it, but I said, that's enough. We know you can do fried rice. The whole point of doing these meals was not just to give me a night off, but for them to learn how to cook different things. And we did this for many years. And both my kids are now excellent cooks. Whatever they wanted to do, I made sure and try to find the ingredients, find substitutes. They learned all sorts of things, and Good Eats was a big inspiration for us. So we love to watch that and go, oh, want to do that. So my son did several of Alton Brown's recipes, and we even used that for his cooking class elective that we did for homeschooling while I was in high school. And that's one of the best things, because now they're both good cooks. They both know what good food is. They know about the health and nutrients and everything. So that's one of the best things I ever did for my kids and for myself, because I needed those nights off. And another thing was reading. If you can get your kids to love books, to love reading, enjoy it. It's not just a chore. It's not something that has to be done for school, for learning. It's just a joy to do. That is what we read to our kids at night. It was a family moment. It wasn't just a bedtime thing. It was a family thing. We eventually had them take turns reading a section or chapter. And it was a family time. TV was off. Normally all four of us were together, and we read stories. I can't believe my husband picked Lord of the Rings of all the things, because the names and trying to pronounce all that stuff. It was, but it was good. It was a really good family time. And my son didn't like to read at first, and it took some doing, but that's another story. But once he got into it, they're both readers today, and they don't get to enjoy it as much as they used to, but they're still reading, and we're passing that on to the grandkids. We do, I picked out some books. If they read the books, I take them out to eat, their choice. And so far, the younger one has been doing it. I thought the older one, who's more of a reader, but the younger one's really latched on, and I've already taken him out 3 times. And the older one wanted, he was upset. But he wants to read what he wants to read, which is, that's fine. Go at it. But he wanted me to take him out for reading what he wanted to read. I was like, no, there's a reason I'm doing it this way. It's not just reading a book and then I take you out. But he gave me a book to read, and I read his book, and then he was like, well, now you can take me out because you read my book. And I was like, no. Oh, wheeling and dealing, that little one. Well, he's tall. He's almost as tall as me now. But instead I said, I'll buy all the ingredients, but you have to cook a meal for me for reading your book. So he ended up making chili cheese tater tots, which is basically, instead of chili cheese fries, it's tater tots. And he made chili for the first time from scratch. So he really enjoyed that. He learned several things about cooking, as not just cooking chili, but he was over here and he was learning things and passing on that tradition. Teaching someone how to cook. I'm amazed at how does anyone get past their teen years without cooking for themselves, at least eggs. So teach your kids to cook, teach them to read books, and if it's cookbooks, it's even better. But those are 2 things I definitely got right in parenting. I've made a lot of mistakes. Looking back, you see more. But those are 2 things that really stuck out as good. And it's good news. And I think it's made very well-rounded, intellectually, emotionally, and physically, my 2 children, and now my grandkids, as they learn what real food is versus junk. And how to make, food even better. So, if you got some good news, please share. I'd like to know. Even though my kids are grown and my grandkids are growing up pretty fast, it's not just about parenting, but also relationships too. I am a very self-sufficient person. I'm capable. I can do a lot of things. And one of the hardest things for me as a wife was to just trust my husband. Now, he's good at some things, and other things he's not so good at. He's learning, he's improving, just like me. But we had a time, especially when I quit working full-time, when I gave up my own income, having my source of income, and had to depend solely on my husband's income for all of our bills, everything. That was a big switch. That was not something I ever saw. Growing up, I thought I would always work. My mom worked until old age. My parents both worked past retirement. So it was just something that was never in my mind to be a homemaker, jobless, incomeless actually. No, jobless is really inaccurate. But I had to, he's a good man. I trusted him. He had a good job. But at that time, his company would have a round of layoff 2 or 3 times in a year, offering early retirement, offering, just trying to downsize their company. And it wasn't even a year that we decided that I needed to stay home with the kids. Summer was coming on. It was some things going on with work, and we thought that would be best for the family, and we were trusting that it would all work out. And it was the hardest thing I ever did, but it was also the best thing I ever did for my family and my marriage. But not too long after I started staying home, my husband comes home and tells me he told his boss that he was not going to work 50, 60 hours like a lot of people were after the latest round of layoffs, because everyone, the work didn't decrease, just less people to do it. That meant, you needed to make time to do the other stuff. And he told his boss that he was going to give him his best 40, but he's working because to support a family, and if he couldn't spend time with that family, he needed to find another job. Now, this is a new boss. He didn't know my husband that well. They hadn't been working together but just a couple of months at that time, and there were some people really, they were obviously working, 60-hour weeks trying to keep up. And I thought, oh God, he's going to be the first one axed at the next round of layoffs. And it's like, just praying and trusting and trying to do what I knew I was supposed to be as a wife, being supportive and say, okay, honey. I didn't want to sit there and go, well, you did what? Are you nuts? I kept all that in and said, okay, honey, I think you're right. And he put the verse about, see a man diligent in his work. He will not work before mean men. He will work before kings. I probably messed up that a little bit, but that's what it said. And someone spoke that over him too. Well, it was not even 2 months after that his boss in a conference call stated that my husband was the most productive employee in their group, and he was only putting in 40 hours. And people who had to put in 60-hour weeks may need to look for another job, because they should be able to do their job in 40 hours like my husband was doing. I'm sure a lot of people hated him. But I was like, oh my, And that's when trust starts. If you don't give that person a chance, if you go running behind, or I started looking for a job, just, make sure that if he got laid off, I had some income coming in. Trust starts by doing that. And trust also means you just have to bite the bullet. You just have to let it go. There was a lot with that, praying, because it wasn't easy for me to let go of, especially financial situations. But we also made some pretty good decisions before that. We bought a house. We were told we were idiots because we could have bought 3 times more, spent that much on because we qualified for that in a mortgage. But we qualified for a mortgage that I, who was making less money of the two of us, could carry the mortgage and the other bills. So in other words, if something happened to either one of our jobs, the other one could handle everything. So when I quit my job, we were already in a position where we didn't have to have 2 incomes. So, but we still needed that one income. But it's about getting yourself financially and spiritually in the right place, because even if we did it financially, but spiritually I wasn't there, it would have been I would have made both our lives really miserable. But I was able to trust him and just put it on to God, saying, Lord, I trust you that no matter what happens, we're going to be okay, whatever. And it has. It's been a crazy 20 years now since all that stuff started happening. So anything good, anything, and especially if it goes against the norm of what's in society today, it's crazy. We're all doing things differently, and I belong to and subscribe to several prepper type channels and homesteading type channels that do things differently than what the rest of the world's doing, and they have their different reasons, whether they're looking for the end of the world or just wanting some sanity in their food sources, or being able to know what they're getting and learning how to do things. I really admire people doing that. So if you have something that you can share that you did right, or you could have done better, and what the better thing is, please let me know. I'm always learning. I love to learn. And thanks for sharing your time with me.